The transport vibrated gently as it neared the glistening crystal towers of Virelia's royal seat. Daniel Reeves gazed from the portal, his aged hands clasped behind him, his gaze caught by the dance of light from the three moons. His humble gray uniform bore the emblem of the Earth Maintenance Corps, with its tiny broom, a constant reminder of humankind's lowly place in the vast cosmic order. "Maintenance Technician Reeve," the automated voice echoed. "Commencing docking sequence. Royal Palace protocols engaged." Daniel nodded, his expression unreadable as he hoisted his meager duffel. Inside were only necessities: clothes, toiletries, a worn notebook, and a small wooden box, a gift from his grandfather. Nothing to draw attention, nothing to betray that he was more than the document suggested. A mere janitor, dispatched as part of Earth's required support for their benevolent allies in the Galactic Confederation. With a soft sigh, the ship made contact. As the airlock opened, two towering silver-skinned Virelians awaited, their shimmering robes catching the artificial light. "Human," the taller one stated, omitting any greeting. "Follow." Daniel lowered his gaze, his posture deliberately submissive, the universal language of the insignificant, as he was led down hallways of dazzling clarity. He meticulously catalogued each turn, each security checkpoint, each surveillance node woven into the crystal walls, ready to fill pages with his notes. The palace mirrored Earth's intel, a stunning fusion of living technology and ancient heritage. Crystalline formations bloomed in perfect geometric patterns, radiating an inner light that seemed to pulse with the emotions of those nearby. The telepathic Virelians had molded their civilization on the connection between thought and matter. Their architecture embodied their arrogance, beautiful, flawless, and utterly unwelcoming to outsiders. Daniel was ushered into a small reception area where a royal administrator awaited. The Virelian woman, her skin tinged with a bluish hue marking her royal lineage, regarded Daniel with the detached curiosity one might reserve for a broken appliance. "Human Daniel Reeve," she stated, her eyes entirely silver, scanning a translucent tablet. "Earth dispatches you to maintain the royal palace of her radiance, Queen Solari the Infinite." She paused, studying him. "Do you comprehend the honor afforded your species?" "Yes, Administrator," Daniel replied, his voice low and respectful. "Earth values this opportunity to serve." The Administrator's lip curled slightly. "Indeed, you shall oversee the Hall of Ancestral Relics. It shelters our most sacred artifacts, predating your species' discovery of fire." She handed him a crystalline keycard. "Your quarters are in the service wing. Begin at dawn. Do not touch any artifact without express permission. Speak only when spoken to. Avoid eye contact with royalty." Daniel bowed, lowering his gaze immediately. "Understood, Administrator. My briefing was comprehensive." The Administrator's eyes narrowed, but she continued. "Your Earth overseers claim you possess technical aptitude. Should you encounter issues beyond your ability, defer to the Hall Supervisor. Refrain from attempting repairs on unfamiliar systems." "Of course, Administrator." "Very well. Zahn will escort you to your quarters." As Daniel was led away, he noticed a grand corridor where elaborately dressed Virelians were congregating. At its end stood a magnificent doorway, guarded by armored sentinels. Beyond it lay the throne room of Queen Solari, precisely where he needed to be. His quarters, predictably, were cramped, utilitarian, and isolated from the Virelian living areas, a sleeping pod, a sanitation unit, a small desk, no windows. The message was clear: unseen, save when required. Alone at last, Daniel straightened, his submissive posture gone. From his boot, he retrieved a small device, using it to scan the room for surveillance. Finding none, he knew the Varelians found direct monitoring of servants beneath them. He withdrew his notebook. In precise script, he began sketching the palace corridors, noting guard patrols and recording observations about the officials he'd met. In the margins, he drew diagrams of security systems, ventilation shafts, and power lines. Tucked at the notebook's back, shielded between pages, was a faded image of a military unit, 12 figures in battle armor, standing before a dropship. Daniel traced their faces, lingering on a woman with a captain's insignia and a confident smile. He turned the photograph over, a wave of bittersweet memories washing over him, his heart aching with a longing for days now gone. The words, "Clean sweep, never forget," scrawled in faded ink on the photo's back. He meticulously sealed it away, then stowed the notebook. From the wooden box, he retrieved a tiny broom charm, nestling it beneath his pillow. "Not yet, Solari," he breathed into the silence. "Not yet." The Hall of Ancestral Echoes sprawled through the palace's east wing, a breathtaking cathedral of soaring heights and seemingly floating displays. 20 millennia of Varelian legacy shimmered within climate-controlled chambers, hovering on anti-grav pedestals. Ancient weaponry, ceremonial robes, technological marvels, each item cradled with deep reverence. Catherine, the hall supervisor, a gaunt Varelian, barely acknowledged Daniel, shoving a cleaning kit into his hands. "North end, then south," she commanded, her voice sharp. "Approved solutions only. Floors like glass, displays pristine. No fingerprints. Until evening bell. Questions?" Daniel shook his head, swallowing his pride. "Good. Remember your place, human. These echoes are Virelia's soul. You, merely dust to be swept." With that stinging welcome, Daniel was abandoned amidst relics of a civilization that deemed his entire species insignificant. Methodically, he began with the floors, the polish creating such a mirror sheen. The artifacts seemed mirrored in two worlds. His movements were precise, each sweep economical. He absorbed every detail, the descriptions, the security measures, his gaze lingering on a cordoned section shielded by an energy field. A plaque detailed relics from the Purification Wars, a millennium ago, when Varelians purged their society of primitive elements. Midday brought a tide of visitors, noble Varelians leading tours for off-world dignitaries. Daniel faded into the background, a silent fixture like the surveillance systems he'd stealthily mapped. And here, a pompous voice boomed, the Ascendant Glider, Emperor Vasin's personal craft during the Third Dynasty. Daniel glanced up. A group clustered around a tarnished metal hulk, part motorcycle, part manta ray. Its once gleaming surface was now dull, components dangling. Non-functional, of course, the guide continued. Its psychoreactive propulsion died with the Emperor. Centuries of study haven't yielded recreation. Daniel resumed polishing, inching closer. From his vantage, he spotted a simple disconnection in the main power coupling. Further inspection revealed corroded connectors, misaligned stabilizers, and a cracked energy cell, all fixable, basic repairs. He polished, cataloging each flaw. That evening, having finished his tasks, he approached Catherine, "Supervisor," he ventured respectfully. "The Ascendant glider seems to have loose components. Could I secure them during maintenance?" Catherine's silver eyes widened. Surprised he dared speak. "The relics are not your concern beyond cleaning." A pause, then. "You are not here to think, human. Clean. Return to your quarters until tomorrow." Daniel nodded, retreating, but lingered near the glider. Empty hall. No watchers. Cameras angled away from the displays, a fact he'd confirmed scrubbing their lenses. He set down his kit, pulled out electrical tape and a multi-tool. Swiftly he slipped behind the display, beneath the ancient machine. 10 minutes passed. Gathering his supplies, he departed. Nothing seemed different, save for strategic tape and a now-completed power circuit, broken for centuries. The next morning, pandemonium greeted Daniel. A mob of Velian officials surrounded the Ascendant glider, their silver eyes wide with shock. The aged machine vibrated with a low, mournful drone, a sound that resonated deep within the soul. Bathed in renewed energy, its surface shimmered with a captivating glow, and the control panel pulsed with a gentle, azure light. "Inconceivable," one official exclaimed, his voice tinged with disbelief. The interface was dormant since Emperor Vassan's demise. Could it be reacting to her luminance's presence within the palace? Another speculated it might be the draw of the royal bloodline. Nearby, Daniel silently picked up his mop, feigning disinterest as he cleaned a distant corner of the hall, his face a carefully constructed mask. Kassan, overwhelmed by the unfolding spectacle, neglected to assign him specific tasks. Methodically, he continued his work, edging imperceptibly closer to the heart of the excitement. "Perhaps," a new voice suggested, cutting through the murmur, "we should examine it more thoroughly." The crowd parted, revealing High Chancellor Vareth. Towering even for a Velian, his skin radiated a cool, burnished platinum sheen. Vareth moved with unwavering confidence, a hallmark of absolute power. His ceremonial armor, a surprising choice for his political role, whispered softly as he approached the ancient glider. "This is a profoundly important development," Vareth declared, his long, elegant fingers tracing the glider's intricate controls. "Her luminance must be informed immediately." "Of course, High Chancellor," Catherine replied, bowing deeply. "Shall I summon the royal technicians?" "Not yet. I wish to examine it personally first," Vareth countered. He turned to the assembled officials, his gaze commanding. "Return to your duties. I will handle this matter." As the crowd dispersed, Daniel continued his seemingly mundane task nearby, a ghost in his janitorial uniform. He watched, observant, as Vareth leaned in close to the glider, his expression shifting from official concern to something far more calculating, darker. The High Chancellor deftly pressed a sequence on the control panel, his brow furrowing in frustration when nothing happened. "You," Vareth snapped, his platinum eyes locking onto Daniel. "Human, bring your cleaning supplies closer. There appears to be dust obscuring the control panel." Daniel approached with practiced deference, his head bowed in subservience. "Yes, High Chancellor. Clean it thoroughly. I wish to see all the markings clearly." Daniel began his task, carefully wiping the ancient controls, acutely aware of Vareth's intense gaze. From this close vantage point, Daniel could discern the Chancellor's true objective, attempting to access a concealed compartment within the glider's chassis. A compartment, according to the historical records Daniel had devoured, that might contain the Emperor's personal communication device. The symbols appear to be arranged in a specific pattern, Daniel offered quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Vareth visibly stiffened, his gaze sharpening. "I did not solicit your observations, human." "Forgive me, High Chancellor," Daniel murmured, feigning remorse. He continued cleaning, then added, "It's only that during my maintenance training, we studied ancient control patterns. This arrangement suggests a 3-part authentication sequence, rather than a simple direct access code." Vareth's silver eyes narrowed, scrutinizing him. "Explain." Daniel pointed with his cleaning cloth to 3 distinct symbols on the panel. In Earth's ancient vehicles, similar patterns would indicate that these primary nodes need to be activated in a specific sequence, followed by a confirmation gesture. He maintained a deferential tone, presenting his observation as an insignificant trifle. Vareth studied the panel in silence, then tentatively placed his fingers on the symbols Daniel had indicated. He pressed them in sequence, then swiftly swept his hand across the panel. A soft click resonated from the glider, and a small compartment silently slid open in its side. The High Chancellor's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, the Velian equivalent of stunned astonishment. He reached into the compartment and withdrew a small crystalline device. "You have been useful, human," Vareth stated, his voice devoid of warmth as he pocketed the device. "Return to your duties, and speak of this to no one." "Of course, High Chancellor," Daniel replied, his voice carefully neutral. As Vareth strode away, Daniel resumed his cleaning, his face betraying nothing of the turmoil within. His mind meticulously catalogued every detail: Vareth's intense curiosity, his desperate need for secrecy, his blatant willingness to pocket an ancient royal artifact without documentation or witnesses. Another piece of the intricate puzzle clicking into place. Over the following 2 weeks, Daniel meticulously established a routine. He arrived before dawn, cleaned with unwavering diligence, observed everything with laser focus, and retreated to his sparsely furnished quarters to document his findings in painstaking detail. The Varelians, predictably, quickly grew accustomed to his quiet presence, eventually ignoring him entirely, creating the ideal environment for his true purpose. He discovered that the palace, a labyrinth of secrets, was honeycombed with ancient access tunnels, forgotten maintenance ducts, and concealed passageways, none of which were reflected on the official schematics. He accomplished this through strategic accidents, like accidentally dropping cleaning supplies and retrieving them from ventilation grates, or polishing obscure corners where hidden panels lay concealed. Gradually, he pieced together a complete map of the palace's hidden infrastructure. One evening, while cleaning near the administrative offices adjacent to the Hall of Relics, Daniel overheard a hushed but heated conversation. He instantly recognized Vareth's distinctive voice, along with another voice speaking in the guttural, clicking language of the Cresor, a species notorious for their ruthless mercenary activities. "The payment will be transferred upon completion, not before," Vareth was saying, his voice low and intense, barely a whisper in the vast hall. The Kresnik reactor hummed, a monstrous heart beating beneath the ravaged cityscape, its power vital yet menacing, promising warmth, but whispering of annihilation. "I need concrete assurance," the first voice retorted, a chilling undercurrent in its tone. "This risky operation demands guarantees. Your faction receives half the agreed payment up front, the rest upon verified success. This is absolutely my last concession." Daniel scrubbed at the floor, edging back slowly to not arouse suspicion, but still stay close enough to hear everything. "And the Earth representatives," the Kressler hissed. "Our sources indicate Earth's ambassador arrives next week. Will that present a major obstacle? Vare dismissed the concern with a snort. Their delegation will be thoroughly monitored and contained. In fact, their presence offers a valuable smokescreen. Initial evidence will point to Earth's government as the instigator of these unfortunate incidents. Very well, the Kressler relented, sounding eager. I accept your conditions. We will be in designated positions by the third moonrise. Daniel heard the scraping of armored boots and immediately focused intensely on polishing an already pristine area of the floor. The portal slid open, and Vareth emerged, followed closely by a cloaked being, identified by his scaled claws and multifaceted eyes as a Chrysor. They swept past Daniel, their conversation hushed and urgent, not even bothering to spare him a glance. As soon as they were gone, Daniel seized a cloth he had deliberately soaked with potent cleaning chemicals and pressed it against the base of the door. The liquid seeped under the doorframe, creating a telltale puddle inside the office, a pretense for him to enter and address the situation. He feigned wiping up the spill while swiftly studying a star chart displayed on a wall screen. Key planetary systems were boldly marked. He immediately recognized a strategic pattern. Key military outposts situated along the tense borders between the Varelion and Earth-controlled territories. That night, back in his Stark quarters, Daniel carefully added this crucial information to his growing collection. The overarching picture was starting to coalesce, but he desperately needed more. Access to the inner sanctum of the palace, to glean insights from Queen Solari herself. His chance arrived sooner than he dared hope. The following day, a sweeping announcement echoed through the palace. Queen Solari would conduct a formal inspection of the hallowed hall of ancestral relics. Chaos ensued as the hall staff plunged into frenzied preparation. Displays were painstakingly recalibrated, security was dramatically reinforced, and cleaning protocols were doubled in rigor. "You!" Catherine snapped, her voice laced with impatience, pointing at Daniel. "You will ensure the central chamber is utterly immaculate. Her radiance will be performing a ceremonial viewing of the eternal flame." "Yes, Supervisor," Daniel replied, accepting the specialized polishing equipment Catherine thrust at him, his heart racing with anticipation. The central chamber housed the Varelion's most revered relic, a flame that reportedly had burned continuously since the very genesis of their civilization. Encased within a shimmering crystalline containment field, the blue-white fire danced and pulsed in hypnotic patterns, somehow resonating with the collective emotional atmosphere of the Varelion present. Daniel worked with meticulous care, fully aware that this assignment had strategically positioned him exactly where he needed to be. As he polished the intricate floor patterns surrounding the flame's pedestal, he detected a subtle anomaly within the security field, a fleeting fluctuation that occurred at precisely 108-second intervals. By midday, the hall had been cleared of all but essential security personnel. Daniel was exceptionally permitted to remain only because the final polishing was deemed an absolute necessity, and there was simply no time to train another cleaner in the complex. Specialized techniques required. "Remain in the outer ring," the stern head of security instructed him, his eyes narrowed in warning. "Once her radiance enters, you will immediately exit through the service portal. Is that perfectly clear?" "Yes, sir," Daniel said, dutifully keeping his eyes lowered. At the precise appointed hour, a melodic chime resonated throughout the hall, signaling the Queen's impending arrival. Daniel meticulously continued his polishing, slowly making his way toward the service door as instructed. But as the grand entrance began to majestically open, He deliberately knocked over his container of polish, sending the specialized solution splashing across the floor, directly in the intended path of the Queen. Immediate chaos erupted. Security personnel surged forward, communicating urgently through their neural links, their faces etched with anxiety. "Halt all movement!" commanded the security chief, his voice sharp and commanding. "Her radiance approaches." Too late. The doors had fully opened, and Queen Solari stood regally at the threshold, surrounded by her resplendent retinue. She was taller than any Varelion Daniel had ever witnessed, her silvery skin almost luminously radiant, with intricate patterns of light subtly shifting beneath its surface. Her eyes were not the solid silver characteristic of other Varelians, but possessed mesmerizing rings of blue that seemed to penetrate and evaluate everything they surveyed on multiple levels. She took in the scene with a single, all-encompassing glance. The spilled polish, the frantic human attempting to clean it up, the visibly alarmed security personnel. What is the meaning of this disarray? Her voice was exquisitely melodic, yet imbued with an unmistakable undercurrent of absolute authority. "Your Radiance," the security chief stammered, bowing deeply. "A most regrettable accident. The human cleaner has spilled—" "I can clearly ascertain what has transpired," Solari interrupted, her piercing gaze fixed intently on Daniel, who had frozen in his cleaning efforts, now kneeling submissively with his head bowed. "Human, look at me." Nuver, his aching neck. Maintaining unwavering focus, Daniel met her intense gaze directly, an act of defiance no servant would normally attempt, all while radiating appropriate deference. For what felt like an eternity, Solari observed him, her head canted, seemingly attuned to an unheard symphony. A subtle pressure then touched his mind, a telepathic probe, gentle but insistent. He allowed her access to his surface thoughts, anxieties over his mistake, resolve to rectify it, and worries about potential reprisal, all while safeguarding his deeper consciousness with mental fortifications erected long ago, specifically designed to counter Varelian telepathy. "You are meticulously thorough," Solari finally declared, her voice devoid of emotion. "I aspire to serve your Radiance," Daniel replied softly. "Yet mistakes happen. I sincerely apologize for the disturbance." Solari gestured, her attendants receding slightly. To everyone's astonishment, she gracefully circumvented the spilled liquid. "Continue your task," she instructed Daniel. "I shall proceed with the viewing." As Solari approached the eternal flame, Daniel resumed his cleaning, knowing he had accomplished his goal: direct engagement with the Queen. More importantly, he had endured her telepathic scrutiny and verified the effectiveness of his mental shields. Throughout the entire ceremony, as he meticulously scrubbed the floor and later retreated to the service area, he sensed Solari's attention drifting back to him. Each time, he projected only the thoughts of a dedicated servant while meticulously observing her and her entourage, particularly the calculating gaze High Chancellor Vareth directed toward her when he believed he was unobserved. Later that evening, Daniel wasn't summoned to the supervisor's office for disciplinary action, but rather to the palace's administrative hub. He was escorted to a small meeting room where, unexpectedly, Queen Solari waited, attended by only a single guard and a royal attendant. "Leave us," she commanded upon Daniel's arrival. When they hesitated, her voice hardened. "The human is no threat. Wait outside." Once they were alone, Solari circled Daniel slowly, her ceremonial robes whispering against the polished floor. "You are not who you appear to be. she stated finally. Daniel remained silent, maintaining a respectful but not subservient posture. Your mind possesses barriers, she continued. Highly sophisticated ones. No ordinary cleaner possesses such defenses. Perhaps Earth has evolved beyond our understanding since our last assessment, Daniel suggested mildly. A flicker of amusement danced across Solari's features. Perhaps, or perhaps Earth has sent me something far more intriguing than a cleaner. She stopped directly before him. Why are you here, Daniel Reeve? To maintain the Hall of Relics, as assigned. And yet you repaired the Ascendant Glider, a feat our engineers couldn't accomplish in centuries. You assisted the High Chancellor in accessing Emperor Vassan's communication device. You have cleaned my palace with unprecedented thoroughness. Her eyes narrowed. You have mapped my home with remarkable precision. Daniel tensed imperceptibly. She had been monitoring him far more closely than he had anticipated. I am meticulous in my work, he repeated his earlier statement. Indeed. Solari approached a wall panel and pressed her palm against it. A hidden compartment revealed Daniel's notebook, the one he kept in his quarters. Meticulous enough to document every corridor, every security protocol, every official in my court. She opened the notebook, displaying pages filled with Daniel's precise diagrams and notes. This is not the work of a common cleaner. Daniel remained silent, assessing his options. Denial would be futile. Violence, unproductive. I serve Earth's interests, he conceded finally. As do you, in your own way. Explain. Earth and Virilia are allies on paper, yet your military vessels are positioning themselves along our border worlds. Your diplomats are stalling crucial trade negotiations, and your High Chancellor is meeting with Kressler mercenaries to discuss operations designed to frame Earth for a regrettable incident. Solari's expression remained unchanged, but the patterns of light beneath her skin shifted rapidly, the Varelian equivalent of intense contemplation. You accuse Vareth of conspiring against Earth? Not just Earth, Daniel said quietly. The star charts in his office mark both Earth and Varelian positions. The regrettable incident he plans endangers your security as well. Your radiance. Solari placed the notebook on a small table. You make grave accusations against my most trusted advisor, based on fragments of overheard conversations and stolen glimpses of documents you could not possibly comprehend. I understand enough, Daniel replied, and I can prove Vareth's treachery if you grant me a test. A test? Solari's tone was skeptical, but Daniel sensed he had piqued her curiosity. A trial of fealty, he said. Unleashed, raw power coursed through her veins, an untamed force threatening to shatter the delicate vessel that contained it. Every muscle throbbed, resonating with the electric surge. The weight of expectation, a crushing burden, settled upon her small shoulders as she focused, summoning the energy. Fear, a cold serpent, coiled in her stomach, but beneath it, a fierce determination burned. She was the only hope, the solitary guardian standing against the encroaching darkness. The fate of everything she held dear rested solely on her fragile, yet extraordinary abilities. This was her moment. An ancient Varelian custom demanded a ruler test their people's devotion and intellect. Solari's eyes betrayed a fleeting surprise. You know our ways well for an earthly custodian. Daniel offered a faint smile. Your world's briefings were exhaustive. Solari pondered this. Very well. I shall indulge your bold request. 3 trials to validate your words and your worth. Her gaze hardened. But heed my warning, human. Failure or false accusations against Verith invites death. I understand, Your Luminance. Your initial task awaits you at dawn. Return to your quarters. Prepare. She gestured to the exit, then added, I'll safeguard your notebook for now. Daniel inclined his head. As you wish, Your Luminance. Turning, he heard Solari's voice once more. Daniel Reeve, a question before you depart. He paused. The trials are traditionally set by the subject, not the crown. What trial do you choose first? Without pause, Daniel replied, To thoroughly cleanse the throne room floor, Your Luminance. Genuine surprise flickered across Solari's face, morphing into something akin to amusement. An unorthodox choice. Sometimes, simplicity unearths profound truths. Salary slowly nodded. The throne room floor it shall be, at dawn. The throne room of Queen Salary symbolized Varelian authority, a majestic space with towering crystalline pillars and a ceiling that seemed to ensnare and enhance the three moons' light. The throne, hewn from a single piece of living crystal, pulsed with the Queen's emotions, its colors shifting to reflect her state of mind. As Daniel arrived the following morning, the room teemed with dignitaries, officers, all witnessing this unprecedented event, a human undergoing the challenge of dignity. High Chancellor Verith stood at Solari's right, his face masking disdain. Approach, human, Solari commanded, her throne radiating a cool blue light. Daniel walked forward, garbed in his custodial attire, with his cleaning gear. Murmurs rippled through the Varelian court. Daniel Reeve of Earth has requested the challenge of dignity, Solari declared formally. His initial task, self-selected, is to cleanse the throne room floor. The whispers intensified, laden with mockery. Even Verith's composure cracked slightly, revealing a smirk. Your Luminance, the High Chancellor stated smoothly. Surely this task insults the dignity of your court. The human mocks sacred rites. Does he? Solari retorted, her gaze unwavering. Or does he grasp their essence more acutely than we imagine? The challenge of dignity reveals truth through action, not mere words. She gestured to Daniel. Begin. Daniel bowed and set to work. He began methodically, applying the cleaning solution in precise patterns, the specialized mop moving with practiced ease. He ignored the court's jeers, immersed in his task. As he advanced across the floor, he meticulously cleaned the areas beneath the officials' feet, forcing them to shift, disrupting their rigidly defined positions. This subtle disruption rippled through the assembly. Approaching the throne dais, Daniel slowed, studying the intricate floor patterns. To onlookers, he ensured perfection, but he examined subtle variations, confirming suspicions gained through palace architectural studies. Without looking up, he addressed the Queen. Your Luminance, with your leave, I need a specialized solution for this section. This area requires meticulous care. Proceed, Solari replied, her tone neutral. Daniel produced a vial and applied a clear liquid to the floor. As it spread, it began to glow faintly, revealing hairline seams. The outline of a concealed access panel directly before the throne. A murmur surged through the court. High Chancellor Verith stepped forward, his composure failing. Your Luminance, the human tampers with sacred patterns. This is desecration. Is it desecration to reveal what was always there, High Chancellor? Daniel asked, never looking up. Daniel finished polishing the access panel, its ancient seams dating back before the Third Dynasty's alterations. Solari leaned in, her throne shimmering from blue to an inquisitive amber. "Explain human," she requested. "Historical texts show Emperor Vaesin commanded extensive palace changes," Daniel explained, his hand still moving. Unrecorded were secret passages, allowing loyalists to move undetected. He glanced at Vareth. Or perhaps assassins to reach the throne. Vareth's face turned stony. "Wild fantasies. This human spreads lies. Reduce his luminosity." "Then my cleaning shouldn't trouble you," Daniel said quietly, reapplying solution. The hidden seams now glowed brightly, revealing the panel's outline for all to see. "Enough!" Vareth roared, hand gripping his weapon. "Stand down, Chancellor," Solari commanded, her throne pulsing purple. "Let him finish." Daniel placed his hands along the luminous seams, expertly pressing and twisting. A soft click echoed, and the panel recessed slightly. "This tunnel," Daniel declared, meeting Solari's gaze, "connects to the palace's hidden network. The original plans vanished during the Third Dynasty. Only builders knew of them, or someone discovering Vaesin's device, the one you accessed 2 weeks ago." Silence fell as every eye turned to Vareth, his face a mask. "Your luminance," Vareth stammered. "This human fabricates fiction. It's a simple maintenance access point." "Then you'll have no issue with us opening it," Daniel suggested. Before Vareth could protest, Daniel pushed, and the panel slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark passage. Daniel shone a light, illuminating a downward-sloping tunnel. "It leads directly to the High Chancellor's private chambers. I mapped it last night, while you slept." The court gasped. Vareth's hand flew to his weapon, but royal guards intervened at Solari's subtle command. "Chancellor," the Queen said, her voice dangerously smooth, "you seem troubled." "I am troubled by the security breach, luminance," Vareth replied, forcing composure. "These passages were sealed, a flaw in the defenses." "A flaw known only to those with Vaesin's device," Daniel interjected, "taken without record or witness." Solari's eyes narrowed. "Is this true, Vareth?" "It contained historical materials for study," Vareth said smoothly. "I secured it for proper research. Yet no record exists in the archives," Daniel pointed out. Vareth's face darkened. "You overstep, human. You were to clean, not accuse officials." "I have cleaned, Chancellor," Daniel said, gesturing to the pristine floor, "and revealed hidden truths." Solari rose, her throne radiating crimson light. "He speaks truly. The first task is complete. You have exceeded my expectations. Court will reconvene tomorrow for the second." As the court dispersed, Solari added, "Secure the passage. No unauthorized entry or exit." Vareth bowed stiffly. "As you command." As Daniel gathered his supplies, he felt Vareth's intense, calculating stare. The Chancellor's plan was interrupted, not destroyed, and Daniel had become a marked man. Later, Daniel was led not to his quarters, but to a secure room adjoining the royal apartments, where Queen Solari awaited him with her advisors and commanders, his open notebook on the table before her. "Your stunning disclosures have ignited a firestorm throughout my court," Solari announced abruptly as they were brought before him. "Alone," he breathed, "disruption unlocks truth. Your radiance." Solari's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. "Indeed," she indicated the notebook. "You've charted more than just hidden paths. Military deployments, quiet communications, safety measures, secrets our laws deem espionage. Yet you see a grand design, Daniel countered. Varelian warships near Earth's colonies, closed doors in diplomacy, weapons consuming resources, and at its heart, High Chancellor Verith. A compelling, unsettling narrative, Salari conceded, but not treason. Verith has served for generations. His loyalty, never questioned. The most dangerous betrayers hide in plain sight, Daniel whispered. Salari scrutinized him. Who are you, Daniel Reeve? More than just a repairman, surely. An Earth spy? I protect Earth, Daniel affirmed. But my true mission is to avert a war that would shatter our worlds. Lofty ideals, Salari replied, skepticism lacing her voice. Yet you deceived your way into my palace, gathered secrets, disrupted my court. Sometimes prevention requires such shadows. Perhaps Salari quietly closed the notebook. Tomorrow, your second trial, the Royal Command Strategy, a war game for our officers. Daniel nodded, unsurprised. Intelligence, not mere diligence. Precisely. A simulation of renowned complexity, conquered only through months of training. Her gaze held his. One attempt, no preparation. I understand. Do you? Verith excels. He holds the record, 27 moves to victory. Acknowledge, Daniel thought. Tomorrow the whole court will watch, including my military command. Fail or succeed, but fail to expose Verith, and you die as a spy. And if I succeed, and reveal Verith. Salari's face hardened. Justice will strike, no matter rank or reputation. Fair enough. Daniel turned to leave, then hesitated. One question, Your Highness. Why this challenge at all? Why not just execute me? Salari paused, the patterns on her skin shimmering. Because, she said softly, wisdom can bloom in the strangest soils, and a wise queen must listen before she judges. Daniel bowed slightly. Until tomorrow. As he was taken back to his chambers, now closely guarded, Daniel knew Verith would strike soon. The High Chancellor couldn't risk the simulation. His secrets were being exposed. The only question, now, was when the attack would come. He smiled grimly in the darkness. Everything was moving precisely according to plan. The Royal Command Strategy played out in the palace's war room, a hexagon of living crystal, capable of creating realistic tactical displays. Varelian officers, court members, and advisors filled the chamber as Daniel entered. High Chancellor Verith stood by the console, his armor gleaming. Finally, Queen Salari walked in, taking her throne that oversaw the simulation space. Her face was neutral, but her chair pulsed amber, a clear indication that she was paying close attention. Daniel Reeve of Earth, she declared. Your second task, the Royal Command Strategy. High Chancellor Verith will oversee the trial. Verith stepped forward, a triumphant smile on his face. The simulation is based on a pivotal war, the Purification Wars, he said, his voice booming. You will lead the defenders against a stronger force. Victory is achieved by protecting the royal city and defeating the invaders. Verith raised his hand, and the simulation came to life. The crystal walls displayed a 3D world, a coastal city, mountains to one side, and the ocean to the other. Ships approached from the sea, while the mountain passes hid ground troops. The simulation is calibrated to the highest level, Verith finished. Facing scarcity, clouded by fragmented intel, and burdened by the delicate balance between troop needs and the public's welfare, your task demands impossible choices. He indicated a control station in the room's core. Your interface awaits. Begin when you are ready. Daniel moved deliberately to the station, absorbing the holographic battlefield. The controls, crafted for Valian neural pathways, seemed alien to human hands. "I've studied similar systems," Daniel said calmly. "The historical context?" Vareth raised an eyebrow. "The siege of Luminous Harbor. The Royal Army was desperately outnumbered." Daniel absorbed the image. "Victory conditions? Protect the city and crush the invaders," Vareth stated, his tone edged with impatience. "History records 43 maneuvers spread across 9 days." "Understood." Daniel touched the interface, and the landscape bloomed with data streams and troop markers. "Your record is 27 moves?" Vareth's eyes narrowed. "Correct. Impressive, but unnecessary." Daniel began a rapid, precise sequence of inputs. The court watched, speechless, as he shifted defenses, rerouted supplies, and repositioned artillery into a perplexing formation. "What is he doing?" a commander demanded. "He's weakening the harbor and exposing the city." "Patience," Solari said, her gaze unwavering. Daniel finalized the reconfigurations. Then, defying expectations, he activated a command that drained the harbor. "What is this?" Vareth demanded, his composure cracking. "Those control environmental factors, not strategy." "History is written by the victors." "Yes, Chancellor," Daniel responded, his focus absolute. "But geography is irrefutable." He stepped back. The simulation showed the enemy fleet advancing into the shallows. At the center of the harbor, Daniel's artillery opened fire, not on the ships, but on the surrounding cliffs. Catastrophic landslides sealed off the enemy's retreat as the tide surged back in with impossible speed. Simultaneously, the city's exposed flank revealed hidden batteries that decimated the ground forces. The invaders were trapped, utterly annihilated. 6 moves. Victory. The war room erupted in shocked whispers. Vareth's face was a blank slate of disbelief. "Impossible," he murmured. "The simulation has never been completed in fewer than 20 steps." Daniel turned to face the court. "'Cause everyone replays the battle as history dictates. History omits unpleasant truths." He indicated the simulation, where the enemy was being crushed. Luminous Harbor wasn't a strategic masterpiece. It was a trap, using the tide and the unstable cliffs to create a killing field. Daniel turned to Solari. A brutal, effective maneuver sanitized into a more palatable narrative. To hide the devastating casualties and to glorify the commander who claimed victory. "And that commander?" Solari inquired, her throne glowing. "According to the record, General Malvik of the Third Dynasty," Daniel replied. His eyes shifted to Vareth, the ancestor of our esteemed High Chancellor. Vareth's face was granite, the patterns beneath his skin frozen. "Absurd. He manipulated the simulation." "Did I?" Daniel challenged, stepping back. "Run it again. Verify everything." A commander stepped forward. "Your Luminance, permission to examine the simulation parameters." Solari nodded. "Proceed, Commander Teliv." Teliv, a battle-scarred Valian with ancient markings, approached the console. After a tense silence, he looked up. "The parameters are accurate. The human strategy is unorthodox, but effective. Victory achieved in 6 steps. Rom, the flickering candlelight to the aged map, sprawled across the wooden table, a silent question etched on her brow, as if seeking answers whispered by the ghosts of cartographers long past. From Tools to Daniel, then to Verith, it appeared, High Chancellor, our earthly guest was eclipsing even your lauded achievements. Verith offered a curt bow. A mere fluke, I assure you. The human stumbled on a solution, blind to our established wisdom. Daniel countered softly. Or perhaps it stems from a willingness to challenge old stories that serve only select agendas. The air crackled with tension. Solaria rose from her throne, now illuminated with pulsating violet light. The second trial concludes. Daniel Reeve of Earth has surpassed all expectations. Her gaze swept across the assembled court. We shall reconvene tomorrow for the final test. As the court dissolved, Verith approached Daniel, his voice a hushed whisper. Impressive display, human. Yet you've proven only your aptitude for games. This simulation, it's more than just a game, isn't it? High Chancellor? Daniel responded quietly. It's a roadmap for the ambush you're setting for Earth's delegation. Verith's silver eyes widened almost imperceptibly, betraying the impact of Daniel's words. I haven't the slightest idea what you mean, he stated, his voice perfectly composed. The deployment of your warships, the critical resources funneled to colony worlds bordering Earth, the secret parleys with Kressler mercenaries. Daniel held Verith's unwavering gaze. You're recreating the fall of Luminous Harbor, only this time, Earth's ambassadors are the targets. A flash of chilling menace pierced Verith's polished veneer, quickly replaced by studied disdain. You perceive conspiracies where none exist, human. Perhaps that's the reason for your species' backwardness. You see demons in every shadow. Daniel replied softly. Not every shadow, only the ones that betray a calculated darkness. Verith's lip curled slightly. Savor your fleeting triumph, human. Tomorrow's challenge will not be so easily overcome. He turned and departed, his ceremonial armor whispering with each step. Daniel watched him go, noticing Verith's subtle hand signal to one of his guards near the exit. The pieces were being arranged. The final act was drawing near, precisely as he predicted. Therefore, Daniel felt no surprise when the assault came that night. He had been escorted to his quarters under guard, but Verith couldn't risk waiting until the final challenge. The High Chancellor's meticulously crafted plans were unraveling too swiftly. He sat on his sleeping pod, scribbling notes in a replacement notebook. When he heard the faint hiss of the ventilation system, its rhythm altered. An odorless gas, intended to incapacitate rather than kill. Verith would want to question him before discarding the body. Calmly, Daniel reached into his boot and retrieved a small filter mask, securing it over his nose and mouth from beneath his mattress. He grabbed a metal rod that had once been part of his mop handle, now sharpened to a lethal point. The door to his quarters slid open, and 2 figures entered. Velian security officers wearing breathing apparatus. They moved with practiced assurance, clearly expecting to find an unconscious human. Instead, they found Daniel waiting in the center of the room, improvised weapon in hand. Gentlemen, he said through the mask, I believe you're lost. The officers hesitated. Then the taller one raised a stun baton. Cooperate, human, and you will not be harmed. High Chancellor Verith wishes to speak with you in private. I'm sure he does. Daniel adjusted his stance slightly, a subtle movement that would appear insignificant to most observers. Their reaction, an immediate adjustment to combat posture, confirmed Daniel's suspicions. "You're not palace security," he said. "Kressler mercenaries. An interesting choice of disguise." The officers exchanged glances, then attacked in unison. They were fast, well-trained, and armed with superior technology. But Daniel was ready. He dodged the first officer's stun baton, ducking under the swing and driving his sharpened mop handle into the breathing apparatus. As the device shattered, the Kressler stumbled back, exposed to his own sedative gas. Daniel spun, using the disoriented mercenary as a shield against the second attacker's weapon. The fight was brief, but brutal. Despite their advanced technology, the Kresslers found themselves facing an opponent who had meticulously mapped every inch of the small room, and who fought with a cold efficiency that belied his supposed background as a maintenance worker. Within minutes, both attackers lay unconscious on the floor. Daniel quickly bound them with strips torn from his bedding, then searched their bodies. As expected, they carried no identification, but their weapons and equipment were military-grade, far beyond standard security issue. He meticulously examined the cracked, aged photograph, its fragile paper whispering stories of a bygone era, a lifetime etched into every crease. In the shadowed corridor or banished guards of Phantom Echo, Daniel reckoned he had less than 20 fleeting minutes before Vareth's treachery unfurled. Time to ignite the desperate gambit. With the security override he'd etched into memory, he sealed his quarters, locking the drugged Kresslers within their slumbering prison. A silent wraith, he navigated the palace's veins, skirting patrol routes mapped during weeks cloaked as a cleaner. His destination, the forgotten tunnels beneath the throne room, Vareth's serpent's path to usurpation. Daniel knew, with chilling certainty, that this plot was far grander than the demise of one mere human. As he slipped through the inky blackness, he reflected on the mission's cruel metamorphosis. He had come to Varelia as a silent observer, to chronicle Vareth's machinations for the Earth Security Council. But destiny had dragged him into the court's treacherous undercurrents, face to face with the Queen Solari. Now, he was a lone shield against interstellar war. Reaching the disguised access point, a service panel swallowed by ornate wall design, Daniel, with practiced grace, disengaged the lock and vanished into the narrow maw. The tunnels, relics of a forgotten age, breathed with the dust of centuries, their silence broken only by Vareth's insidious tread. Guided by his mental map and the ghostly flicker of emergency lights, Daniel moved like a phantom. Then, the murmur of voices reached him, Vareth's clipped tones mingling with the Kressl's staccato clicks. He crept forward, a shadow among shadows, until he could peer into a junction chamber where tunnels converged. Vareth stood, a viper in velvet, ringed by a dozen armed figures, a tapestry woven of Varelian officers and Kressler mercenaries. A holographic projection danced in their midst, a map of the palace painted with pulsing crimson targets. "The human has complicated matters," Vareth hissed, his voice a frozen blade. "But the plan proceeds. Team 1 secures the royal apartments. Team 2 silences the communication hub. Once the Queen is isolated, the Kressler ships arrive, a false flag of Earth aggression." "And the Earth delegation?" a Varelian officer inquired. "Contained," Vareth purred, a predator savoring its kill. "Their shuttle suffered a regrettable navigational error, diverted to our military detention center. By the time they are released, the Varelian people will believe Earth assassinated their queen." Daniel, his blood turning to ice, knew the truth. Vareth's ambition knew no bounds. It wasn't merely the death of diplomats, but the birth of interstellar war, draped in the guise of an Earth attack, a justification for Salary's violent removal. He had to warn her, but first, he needed weapons. He retreated, a whisper in the darkness, seeking a junction that led to the palace armory, a route through an ancient maintenance shaft. The shaft was a claustrophobic's nightmare, barely wider than his shoulders. He squirmed, crawled, fought through collapsed sections, scraping and contorting to make progress. Finally, he emerged, coated in centuries of dust, into a small access room beside the armory. A security panel glowed on the wall, its advanced neural interface a taunt to his human limitations. He would have to improvise. From his pocket, he produced a makeshift tool, a conductive rod wrapped in salvaged wire. With painstaking care, he removed the panel cover, revealing the complex crystal circuitry. He identified the core security circuit, and with agonizing precision, bridged key connection points. A brief surge of electricity, a hiss of escaping pressure, and the armory door slid open, revealing racks of Varelian weaponry. Weapons stood guard along the armory's walls, a spectrum from ancient ceremonial blades to sleek, advanced energy weapons. Daniel moved deliberately, prioritizing effectiveness and discretion. He chose a palm-sized stun projector, a shield generator disguised as a wristband, and, crucially, a communication device to circumvent palace channels. As he turned to leave, his gaze snagged on a display case at the room's edge. Inside rested a sword unlike any other, its crystalline blade shimmering with shifting colors as he drew closer. A plaque identified it as the Blade of Clarity, a weapon from the Purification Wars, rumored to cleave through lies as readily as flesh. Daniel hesitated, then shattered the case and claimed the sword. Sometimes, he reasoned, symbols resonated as powerfully as technology. Armed and ready, he retraced his steps into the access tunnels. His urgency heightened. Vareth's timeline indicated the coup would erupt within the hour. Queen Salari needed his protection before the High Chancellor's forces seized her apartments. But as he neared the junction leading to her quarters, he encountered a newly erected security field, a testament to Vareth's meticulous planning. Disabling it would likely trigger alarms, demanding an alternative. Scanning his mental map, he located a ventilation shaft leading to the ceremonial bathing chambers beside the royal apartments. It would be a tight squeeze, potentially monitored, but his best recourse. The shaft proved even narrower than the tunnels, forcing Daniel to shed his outer layers. As he crawled forward in the claustrophobic space, he couldn't help but dwell on the irony. He'd arrived in Varelia posing as maintenance, and now he was navigating ductwork, straight from a classic Earth action film. Finally, he reached a grate overlooking the ceremonial bathing chamber, a grand expanse of polished stone and flowing water, dimly illuminated for the night cycle. Silently, he removed the grate and dropped to the floor. As he prepared to contact the Queen, a voice cut through the quiet from the shadows. "I wondered when you'd arrive, human." Daniel spun, the ancient sword instantly in his grip, to see Queen Salar emerging from an alcove. She was clad not in ceremonial robes, but a fitted combat suit with wrist-mounted shield generators. "Your luminance," Daniel began, lowering the sword slightly. "The palace is under attack. Vareth is staging a coup. He intends to blame my assassination on Earth as justification for war." "Yes," Salari replied calmly. "I am aware." Daniel stared, surprised. I've suspected Varith's ambitions for some time, Solari continued, moving closer. But I lacked concrete evidence and understanding of the scope of his plot, until you arrived. You knew who I was from the beginning? Daniel asked. Not specifically, Solari admitted, but I knew you were more than a simple maintenance worker. A hint of a smile touched her lips. No one cleans that efficiently without hidden motives. Before Daniel could respond, the palace alarm system blared, a haunting melody resonating through the crystal walls. It's starting, Daniel said, his body tensing. Varith's forces will secure this section first. Indeed. Solari moved to a wall panel and pressed her hand against it. A hidden compartment opened, revealing weapons and communication gear, which is why we must reach the Sanctum Core before they cut off all access. The Sanctum Core, Daniel repeated, the heart of the Velian government, and the only place from which you can activate the palace's ancient defense systems. Solari selected a weapon resembling a slender wand. Systems even Varith doesn't know exist. Daniel nodded. Lead the way, your luminance. Under these circumstances, Solari said, raising an eyebrow, you may call me Solari. They moved swiftly through secret passages, uncharted even on Daniel's detailed maps, routes known only to the royal bloodline. As they navigated the labyrinthine network, Solari spoke in a low voice. When did you first suspect Varith's intentions? I had suspicions from the start, Daniel replied, matching her pace through a narrow corridor. Earth's intelligence services detected unusual activity from Velian warships near our border worlds. We needed confirmation and details. So they sent you, Solari finished, disguised as a janitor. The most invisible role in any hierarchy, Daniel said with a slight smile. People reveal far more when they believe no one of consequence is watching. They paused at a junction as a patrol of armed guards hurried past a connecting corridor. Once the path ahead seemed safe, Solari guided them forward. They descended into the palace's depths, down a steep slope into its very core. And the test of my worth? Solari inquired, her voice echoing slightly. Was that part of your calculations? An unexpected turn, Daniel confessed, his gaze steady. After you found my notes, I needed to preserve my standing long enough to secure definitive proof of Varith's treachery. A risky play, certainly, but far less perilous than sparking galactic war. Solari's expression was insightful. Your commitment to this mission is commendable, but I perceive something deeper than mere diplomacy driving you. Before he could answer, they stood before a towering door of living crystal, throbbing with light. As Solari touched it, the patterns rearranged themselves, flowing like water, and the door silently opened. Beyond lay the Sanctum Core, a circular chamber whose walls were living crystal, the foundation of Varelion technology. A complex geometric structure floated in the center, shifting and evolving. The heart of Varelia, Solari explained, walking toward it. From here, our first queens wove the neural network of our civilization, the bedrock of our collective mind and our technological prowess. Daniel followed, his trained eye cataloging the defensive systems, energy nodes, atmospheric controls, and quantum entanglement communicators that could cut through any interference. This, Solari said, her hand on a control interface that materialized before her, is what Varith craves. Not just rule, but dominion over our shared memory. The hard-won wisdom of 20,000 years of Velian progress. the power to give him an edge over Earth. Daniel realized, the truth striking him. Over the entire Confederation, Salary corrected, her voice grave. The Sanctum Core holds secrets we've intentionally kept from other species, not from malice, but because in the wrong hands, they could unravel everything. The geometric structure pulsed faster as Salari worked, streams of data swirling around her. Daniel positioned himself at the entrance, watching for danger. "How long to bring the defenses online?" he asked, his voice sharp. "A few moments. Royal blood is required to verify the commands. Centuries of disuse make reactivation lengthy." Salari's voice had grown distant as her awareness blended with the core systems. Daniel prepared his weapons for the inevitable conflict. Verith would have discovered Salari's escape. His forces would be closing in on every safe haven, the Sanctum Core among them. A distant explosion rattled the foundations, followed by weapons fire. Verith's loyalists were battling the remaining Royal Guard. "They're closing," Daniel warned. "I require more time," Salari responded, her focus unwavering. "The defenses are ancient. The process is complex." Daniel made his decision. "Then keep working. I'll stall them." Before she could reply, he slipped out of the core and locked the door. The corridor was filled with the sounds of combat. Energy blasts, shouted orders in Varelian, and the clicks of the Cresor mercenaries. Daniel assessed the space. A narrow passage, a choke point where a lone defender could hold off an army. But there was no retreat. A perfect final stand. He checked his stun projector and activated his wrist shield. Then, almost as an afterthought, he drew the ancient crystal sword, the Blade of Clarity. In the dim light, it seemed to drink and refract the light, painting the walls with prismatic patterns. The first attackers appeared. 3 Kresler mercenaries in Varelian uniforms, weapons raised. They hesitated at the sight of a single human blocking their path, holding what seemed to be a ceremonial sword. It was a fatal mistake. Daniel's stun projector dropped 2 before they could fire, and he was moving before the third could adjust. The crystal blade sliced through the mercenary's weapon, shearing it apart, before the flat of the blade knocked him unconscious. More attackers arrived. Verith's Varelian loyalists mixed with mercenaries. This time, they were prepared, coordinating their attack. But Daniel fought with a calculated precision far removed from his guise as a mere maintenance worker. The confining space worked to his advantage, negating the Velian's numerical superiority. He endured searing energy blasts, his shield absorbing those he couldn't evade, while his ancient blade proved unexpectedly potent against their futuristic armor. An echo of forgotten training surfaced within him, knowledge beyond any official Earth record, maneuvers crafted for humans against overwhelming technological might. Behind him, the Sanctum Core door remained steadfast, buying Salari the vital time she needed to awaken the palace's ancient guardians. But Daniel felt his endurance faltering. His shield sputtered, nearing overload, and his stun projector was nearly depleted. Then, a new figure emerged at the far end of the corridor, High Chancellor Verith, encased in battle armor that shimmered with charged energy. Flanking him were his elite guard, armed with weaponry far exceeding those of the initial assault force. "Impressive, human," Verith's amplified voice boomed. "You fight with unexpected ferocity for a species we deemed scarcely sentient upon first contact." Daniel remained silent, conserving his strength. "I confess," Verith continued, advancing with measured steps. "You've proven more of an impediment than anticipated. I initially dismissed you as insignificant, a mere token offering from Earth's subservient government. His silver eyes narrowed. A miscalculation I won't repeat. With a curt gesture, Vareth unleashed his guards. They advanced with deadly coordination, their weapons brimming with destructive energy. Daniel braced himself for the renewed onslaught, his odds plummeting with each passing moment. But Solari was so close. The first guard lunged, weapon firing. Daniel deflected the energy beam with the crystalline sword, an act of desperation that somehow prevailed. The blade absorbed and dispersed the energy in a blinding spray of prismatic light. Capitalizing on the guard's shock, Daniel struck, flooring him with the sword's pommel. But the remaining guards pressed their assault, converging on him from multiple sides. Daniel's shield finally shattered, its protective field collapsing in a surge of raw energy. Simultaneously, a stray energy blast grazed his left arm, unleashing a torrent of agony through his nerves. He staggered back, struggling to hold his ground before the sanctum, his strength clearly diminished. Vareth advanced, a cruel smile twisting his features. Your resistance is futile, human. My forces are securing the palace, fabricating proof of Earth's treacherous aggression. Tomorrow your planet will face the full might of Veralia, he said with a grin, adding, with myself as Supreme Commander. You underestimate Earth, Daniel retorted, his voice unwavering despite the excruciating pain. And you vastly underestimate your queen. Solari is a relic, much like this archaic palace and its outdated traditions, Vareth sneered, raising a weapon capable of disintegrating organic matter. Her dedication to peace renders her unfit to lead Veralia to its destined supremacy. As Vareth prepared to fire, a resonant, melodic tone filled the corridor door, unlike any alarm that had sounded before. The sound seemed to emanate from the very core of the living crystal walls. Vareth froze, his triumph dissolving into confusion. What is this? Behind Daniel, the door to the sanctum core silently opened. Queen Solari emerged, transformed. The living crystal of the core had responded to her royal touch, its filaments weaving around her, creating a pulsating network of light across her silver skin. You speak of traditions you do not comprehend, Vareth. Solari's voice echoed with the same resonant melody that permeated the corridor. You claim loyalty to Veralia, while secretly collaborating with mercenaries and plotting war against our allies. Vareth's guards recoiled, their weapons faltering before Solari's radiant presence. The ancient defenses are awakening, Solari proclaimed, raising her hands. The crystal walls throbbed with increasing intensity. This palace remembers its true purpose, not as a symbol of power, but as a guardian of peace. Vareth snarled, leveling his weapon at Solari. Peace is for the weak. Veralia is worthy of unwavering loyalty. He unleashed a devastating blast, power enough to obliterate anything in its path. Yet the energy dissipated harmlessly against a suddenly visible, shimmering barrier around Solari. The palace protects its true ruler, she declared, calm amidst the chaos. Through the structure, the living crystal forming the palace's very bones vibrated with Solari's restored connection. Security fields flared to life in corridors, isolating loyal soldiers from conspirators. Communication systems blared, broadcasting evidence of Vareth's treachery to Verelian ships and colonies. The ancient defense network, silent for centuries, awakened. Rage twisted Vareth's features. This changes nothing. My forces still command the key systems. The Kresler ships are still coming, disguised as Earth vessels. Are they? Daniel questioned, straightening despite his wounded arm. Check your tactical display, High Chancellor. Bewilderment flickered across Vareth's face as he accessed the data. Confidence dissolved into shock. Impossible! The Kressler ships are being intercepted, Daniel explained. Earth's defense fleet, cloaked and waiting, has been in position for days. Did you truly believe we'd send a diplomatic envoy into hostile territory unguarded? Fury replaced Vareth's shock. He fixed Daniel with a venomous stare, disruptor raised. You're no maintenance worker. Who are you? Daniel offered a tight smile, shifting his stance, the crystalline sword rising. My name is Captain Daniel Reeve, formerly of Earth Special Operations Command. My last mission, Project Clean Sweep, until your Kressler allies ambushed my team during peace negotiations 5 years ago. Recognition dawned in Vareth's eyes. The border incident. That was your unit. 11 of Earth's finest soldiers, slaughtered by Kressler mercenaries using Varelian weapons. Weapons you supplied. Daniel's voice remained measured, but his eyes burned with frigid intensity. One survivor me, left for dead on a border world, burdened with irrefutable proof that none would ever have believed before today's events. So, Earth sent you back for revenge, Vareth sneered. For justice, Daniel corrected. And to stop the war, you've been plotting since that very day. Vareth's laugh was chillingly dismissive. Justice? You infiltrated our palace, deceived our queen, and now brandish an ancient weapon stolen from our sacred relics. You're nothing but a spy and a thief. And you're a traitor to your own people, Daniel countered, his voice steady. How many Varelian lives will be consumed in your war with Earth? How many human lives will be sacrificed for your ambition? Vareth's eyes narrowed. Acceptable losses for Varelian supremacy. Our species is destined to rule, not to cooperate with lesser beings. Throughout their exchange, Solari had remained silent, the crystalline network on her skin glowing intensely. Finally, she spoke, her voice resonating with the core of the sanctum. Enough, Vareth. Your conspiracy stands revealed. Your mercenary allies are being intercepted. Your loyal officers are already being separated from the true defenders of Varelia. Vareth's face hardened as he glanced again at his tactical display, confirming her words. Throughout the palace, his forces were being contained by the ancient security systems. The Earth Defense Fleet was engaging the Kressler ships. His carefully constructed coup was collapsing, but the High Chancellor had one final card to play. With a snarling roar, he activated a hidden function in his armor. Power surged through the circuits, transforming the ceremonial protection into a weapon. If I cannot rule Varelia, he growled, then perhaps it deserves to fall. Energy blasts erupted from his armor, striking the crystal walls of the corridor. The living material shrieked, cracks spiderwebbing from the impact points. Stop, Solari commanded. Destroying the support nodes will compromise the structural integrity of the sanctum level. Vareth finished with venomous glee. Taking you, this human spy, and the sanctum core with it. Without the core, the palace defenses will crumble, and my secondary forces can still complete the mission. Daniel understood. Vareth was targeting specific points, vital to the entire lower-level structure. If the sanctum core was destroyed, Solari would lose her connection, and Vareth's conspiracy would be buried in the ruins. Ignoring the agony in his wounded arm, Daniel launched himself toward Vareth. The crystalline sword, the blade of clarity, glowed brighter as if sensing his intent. Vareth unleashed another blast, aimed squarely at Daniel, but the human, a blur of motion, evaded it with impossible speed. With a wounded warrior's grace, he moved, his every strike possessing a calculated beauty. The crystal blade met the scorching energy, greedily drinking it in, then unleashed it harmlessly into the cold floor. Daniel surged forward, the ancient sword a part of him, as if it guided his very soul. Sparks erupted from Vareth's armor as the blade connected. The impossible edge of the weapon overloaded the circuits, leaving Vareth staggered and gasping. "Impossible," he choked. "That blade hasn't chosen anyone since the ancient wars." Solari observed, her surprise palpable. "Since it chose the last protector of truth." Pressing his advantage, Daniel unleashed a whirlwind of attacks, each strike crippling another section of Vareth's advanced armor. Vareth's guards rushed to defend him, only to find themselves frozen in place, imprisoned by crystalline structures erupting from the walls at Solari's silent command. With a final, decisive thrust, Daniel plunged the sword into the core of Vareth's armor. A surge of unleashed energy ripped through the Chancellor's system, leaving him defenseless and stripped of his technological advantage. Vareth crumpled, his once imposing armor now a leaden burden. Hatred and confusion twisted his features as he looked at Daniel. "Who are you?" he hissed. "How could a mere maintenance worker defeat Virelian technology?" Daniel lowered the sword, its glow fading as the danger passed. "I told you," he stated, his voice resonating. "Captain Daniel Reeve, Earth Special Operations Command, the lone survivor of Project Clean Sweep." "Project Clean Sweep?" Solari echoed thoughtfully. "An intriguing name for a military unit." Daniel's gaze never left Vareth's. It was more than just a unit. It was diplomacy masked as a military operation. Our mission: to unearth and dismantle those forces on both Earth and Virelia pushing for war. He gestured to Vareth with the tip of the blade. Elements like the High Chancellor, who has been secretly arming Krezler mercenaries and orchestrating border conflicts for years, all to paint himself as Virelia's only hope. Vareth's silver eyes burned with defiance. "You have no proof that the Confederation will accept." Daniel withdrew a small crystal from a hidden pocket. "Every conversation inside the Hall of Relics for the last 3 weeks, every meeting with your Krezler accomplices, every transmission to your military commanders plotting the invasion." He tossed the crystal to Solari, who caught it effortlessly. "A maintenance worker hears everything, High Chancellor, especially one who knows what to listen for." The palace security, the truly loyal guards, not Vareth's co-conspirators, arrived, drawn by Solari's call through the reactivated defense system. They encircled Vareth and his now neutralized guards, awaiting the Queen's command. "Take the traitor and his accomplices to the reflection chambers," Solari commanded. "Let justice be served before the full court." As Vareth was dragged away, his pride broken, he turned back to Daniel. "This isn't over, human. Virelia will never accept equality with Earth. Others will continue what I began." "Perhaps," Daniel acknowledged, but not today." Once the prisoners were gone, Solari turned to Daniel, a thoughtful expression on her face. The crystalline network, her link to the palace, retreated back to the sanctum core. "Captain Reeve," she said formally, "Earth's briefings appear to have been incomplete when they described you as a maintenance technician." Daniel allowed a faint smile. "A technical truth, Your Luminance. I've been maintaining the peace, at great personal cost. She gestured to his wounded arm, still bleeding. You require medical attention. I've endured worse, Daniel replied, though he didn't resist when she summoned a medical team. As they waited, Salari studied him with her silver-blue eyes. You could have simply killed Verith, given your skills and position. You had ample opportunities. Why this elaborate approach? Daniel carefully placed the crystal sword, now dormant, on the floor. Killing Verith wouldn't have addressed the core problem. His conspiracy runs deep through your military and government. Without exposing the full extent of his network, his death would have been meaningless, potentially even harmful. You sought systemic change, not just vengeance for your fallen comrades. Vengeance is fleeting, Daniel said softly. Justice endures. Salari nodded slowly, a distinction many fail to grasp. She glanced at the sword. The Blade of Clarity has chosen you, something it hasn't done for any Valian in generations. Ancient tales whisper it, senses sincerity deep within one's soul. Legends are beyond my knowledge, Daniel stated plainly. I merely required an instrument. As the medical team began their work, Daniel quietly endured their examination, accepting the regenerative compounds meant to rapidly mend his wounded arm. Meanwhile, reports flowed to Salari from every corner of the palace, and even beyond. Verith's intricate plot was unraveling with remarkable speed. The palace's advanced security, resurrected by the Sanctum Corps, had flawlessly identified and isolated his accomplices. The Kreezer mercenaries, their disguises as Earth vessels exposed, either surrendered meekly or scattered when faced with the Earth Defense Fleet's raw power. Crucially, the Earth diplomatic delegation, imprisoned by Verith, was freed, averting the catastrophic interstellar incident the treacherous High Chancellor had carefully engineered. Your mission succeeded beyond expectations, Captain, Salari noted, when they were once again alone after the medical team completed their healing. Though I doubt your superiors envisioned such extensive disruption. Daniel rotated his healed arm, testing the restoration. My operational mandate allowed considerable improvisation. Amusement flickered across Salari's face. What now? Will you return to Earth, hailed as the hero who prevented interstellar war? That would be unproductive, Daniel explained with careful deliberation. My constructed identity remains useful. Other conspirators may exist. Other threats could jeopardize the fragile peace. Salari gazed at him for a long moment. You truly desire to remain a maintenance technician after everything? It's a highly effective disguise, Daniel emphasized. No one truly sees the floor cleaner. I can continue to observe, listen, and identify potential crises before they escalate into full-blown conflicts. An unusual choice for a military hero, Salari pondered aloud. Daniel's expression darkened. I am the last of my unit. Any hero's welcome, as you put it, would ring hollow. Salari considered this deeply, nodding slowly. Very well. Daniel Reeve will continue his duties within the Hall of Ancestral Relics, but perhaps with certain adjustments to his access and authority. I would appreciate that, Daniel acknowledged. Though be warned, I will still maintain a pristine environment. It's become ingrained. I anticipate nothing less, Salari responded, a faint smile gracing her lips. In the following days, Varelia's court underwent a metamorphosis. Verith's public trial exposed the breadth of his treachery, revealing decades of insidious manipulation, illegal weapon transfers, and calculated border skirmishes designed to ignite war between Earth and Varelia. The evidence meticulously gathered by Daniel, alongside the confessions of Vareth's co-conspirators, fostered a new diplomatic era. Earth's stature within the Galactic Confederation grew, accompanied by new trade alliances and cultural exchange programs. Throughout this transformative period, Daniel Reeve quietly continued his maintenance duties within the Hall of Ancestral Relics, his work exemplary, his demeanor respectful. If the palace staff noticed his newfound, unrestricted access to previously forbidden zones, or the extended private conversations with Queen Salary, they wisely remained silent. One evening, while Daniel finished his usual rounds in the now empty hall, Salari approached, finding him meticulously polishing the display case holding the Blade of Clarity. "Captain," she greeted, only using his true rank when they were completely alone. "Your Luminance," he replied, with a respectful bow. The delegation from the Andromeda colonies seemed deeply impressed with the hall today. They were even more impressed by the newfound cooperation between our worlds, Salari added, though they are unaware that the true architect of this piece still cleans the floors they walk upon. Daniel smiled faintly. "I prefer it that way." Salari approached the display, studying the ancient sword within. "Our historians have been researching the Blade of Clarity since it resonated with you during the confrontation with Vareth. Their findings are fascinating. Do you know what they uncovered?" "I can only imagine," Daniel said, resuming his methodical cleaning. "The blade was forged during the dawn of the Purification Wars, when our civilization was fractured by opposing ideologies. Records suggest it was designed to cut through deception and reveal truth. A weapon responding not to royal blood or telepathic power, but to clarity of purpose." Daniel paused, gazing at the crystalline sword thoughtfully. "A useful trait in these uncertain times." "Indeed." Salari turned to face him directly. "The Galactic Confederation has approved my nomination for you to receive the Star of Diplomatic Service, their highest accolade for preventing interstellar conflict." "That's unnecessary," Daniel began. Yet Salari lifted a hand, a silent plea to cease his words. "The award is in honor of Captain Daniel Reeve, officially declared KIA 5 years prior during a border skirmish. Your assumed identity remains secure, as you requested," Salari said gently. Daniel offered a silent nod of gratitude, his practiced movements resuming the task at hand. "The Earth delegation has also presented a proposition," Salari added. "They seek to establish a permanent liaison office within the palace, ostensibly to nurture the budding cultural exchange, but with added security prerogatives." "A reasonable precaution," Daniel murmured, never stopping his work. "They've requested chambers for this liaison near the Hall of Ancestral Relics." Salari's voice held a touch of amusement. "Apparently, they suspect the hall harbors secrets to Valian heritage." "It does," Daniel agreed quietly. "I've learned a great deal in its upkeep." Solari studied him a moment longer, then asked, "Will you ever return to Earth, Captain? Surely your mission must conclude, eventually." Daniel paused, weighing the question. "Earth tasked me with exposing a plot and averting a war. That I accomplished, but maintaining the peace demands continued vigilance." He gestured to his cleaning equipment, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "The grime never ceases its accumulation. Someone must sweep it away." "An unconventional philosophy for a distinguished military figure," Salari observed. Daniel meticulously buffed a display case to a mirror sheen, then gathered his supplies. "Perhaps," he offered, "but I've found it effective." As he turned to leave, Salari spoke. "The court chamberlain has suggested a new appointment, Master of Palace Security. It would entail regular inspections of all palace facilities, unfettered access, and direct communication with the throne." Daniel paused, his eyebrows raised in question. "Of course," Salari elaborated. "Such a position would be largely symbolic. The traditional guard would maintain day-to-day security. A symbolic position," Daniel echoed, thoughtful. "Indeed," Salari continued. "The Master of Palace Security might, say, continue his current duties as a subtle front for more consequential endeavors." Salari's expression remained composed, but her eyes shone with a hint of anticipation. If such an arrangement would be acceptable. Daniel contemplated the proposal, recognizing its deeper meaning, not just continued access, but a formal affirmation of his role as Solari's trusted advisor on matters of security, while keeping the profile that had served him so well. "I believe that could be made to work," he replied finally, "though I would request one condition." Daniel indicated his cleaning implements. "I keep my equipment. The standard issue mops are woefully inadequate." For the first time since they met, Queen Salari laughed, a melodious sound like wind chimes. "Granted, Captain Reeve. I'd expect no less from the most meticulous cleaner the royal palace has ever known." As they strolled through the now deserted hall, Daniel considered the strange path that had brought him to this point. He had sought retribution for fallen comrades and had prevented an interplanetary conflict. He had found something more, a purpose beyond his initial task, perhaps even the inception of understanding between two societies that had long viewed each other with uncertainty. The journey had begun with a broom and a datapad. It had led to a throne room and a battlefield, and improbably now it had brought him to a new role that was both guardian and servant, warrior and maintenance man, visible and invisible, as each circumstance required. Daniel smiled softly as he followed the Queen of Valia through the sparkling corridors he had buffed to perfection. Sometimes the most powerful weapon was not a blaster or a sword, but a simple mop, and the willingness to wield it. As Solari had noted, the grime never ceased accumulating, but someone had to sweep it away. And Daniel Reeve was exceptionally skilled at cleaning.